Hello and welcome to episode 498 of the Daily Sales Message podcast, where every single day I share a piece of simple and actionable advice that's designed to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too. Now, in today's episode, we're covering a phrase which I hear all the time, and the phrase is, people don't get what we do. People just don't get what we do. One of the simplest ways that we can get the point across as to what you do is to use what's known as equivalence. So we take something that's understood, something that's not yet understood, and we just compare the two together. We make them equivalent. We draw comparisons between the two things. For example, if I have a new business idea and I'm describing it to you, it's the Uber of hairdressing. It's the Uber of hairdressing. What do you think of that? What comes to mind? Well, you're probably thinking of a mobile hairdressers, first of all, so a van that will drive around, or some vans that will drive around. But because it's the Uber of, there'll be an app where you can track the van as it moves around, and you can hail it to come to you to cut your hair, etc. And you'd be absolutely right. So we're using the equivalence of Uber and how that works, but rather than for taxis and food, we're now talking about hairdressing. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you use other brand names to explain your business. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I'm giving you a really simple example of equivalence at work, how we can take something understood, compare it to something that's not yet understood, and we can get that point across really quickly. The alternative is if I literally say to you, it's a mobile hairdressers. A mobile hairdressers. Yeah, you kind of might understand that, but the fact that we say it's the Uber of, you get the technology aspect, the urgency of it, the flexibility as well. It just says a lot more. So if you've got a hard to explain offering, think about what you can compare your offering to, what's equivalent to it, because that will help to make all the difference. Final example in my own world is I use the concept of messaging guidelines. So we're aware of brand guidelines, these logos, these fonts, these colors, we're aware of that. So I use the concept of messaging guidelines, which kind of mirror branding guidelines, where we have these words, terms, assets, and arguments. And as soon as I say that, if people aren't really sure what they're going to get with a clear sales message or how it works, all of a sudden the penny drops and they get it. And that's the point. We shouldn't be struggling to explain what we do to people, because if people don't understand what we're trying to sell to them, they just physically can't, not they don't want to buy it from us, they physically can't buy it from us, and that's an issue. Right, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. Tomorrow in episode 499, one episode away from the big 500. I can't believe I've nearly recorded 500 episodes of this podcast. Insane. But in tomorrow's episode 499, we're going to be talking about what not to say to your potential buyers, what not to say. There's a couple of core things. You just need to keep your mouth shut. I'll explain more in tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you tomorrow for another fast-talking edition of the Daily Sales Message.